Hi, good evening, Dr. Rosmiza, and good evening, my fellow classmates. My name is Uchenwoke Chinevu. I'm representing Team 12, and my team members are Chinevu, Samuel Chinedu, and He Yang. We are here to present our group assignment on renewable energy development. And the title of our study is Implementing Sustainable Development and Renewable Energy Policy Framework in the Nigerian polity. So let's move to the introduction. So here, natural resources are important as assets that champions economic development and growth of nations across the world. However, the harnessing and usage of natural resources has both negative and the positive impact on the government. This has made the government around the world to implement measures geared at reducing greenhouse gas emission and seek for alternative means of energy, particularly renewable energy. The background of this study next. So here, Nigeria is endowed with numerous natural resources, and Nigeria has a production capacity of natural gas worth 1,681.66 billion cubic feet, and also capacity of 2.53 million barrels of crude oil per day. This has made Nigeria to be one of the largest oil producing countries in Africa. And despite all this, the RE usage percentage stands at 13%, which came from agro farm waste products and solar. Now let's look at the gap of this study. Now, given the numerous RE policies in Nigeria, some policies are short-term and unable to meet long-term needs. The gaps we discovered in the course of this study are lack of framework, RE laws, act of parliament, and also lack of coordination between government agencies and the RE developers, lack of financial policies like tax break, empowerment and capacity building, lack of government and the privately funded RE projects in Nigeria, and also no RE grid connection, and also lack of mechanism to verify energy production in Nigeria. Now let's move to the next slide. Now, considering the stakeholders in this our study, number one, government. The key stakeholder in this study is government, and by extension, its agencies that are responsible for generation and distribution of power, because it is the government that regulates the energy sector in Nigeria. Then the number two stakeholder here is renewable energy investors. Then here we have to consider some consequences that if we didn't fill the gaps that are listed above. One is lack of interest by private investors in the development of renewable energy in Nigeria. Two is lack of understanding of government policies on RE by the private investors. And finally, poor communication between the government and the RE investors. Now let's look at the objectives. We have 4 objectives here: to explore the role of government agencies in development of RE in Nigeria, to explore impediments to RE projects in Nigeria, and to ascertain specific RE sources in Nigeria. Then the last is to establish communication avenue for RE investment. Now let's move to the literature. The literature review of this study is divided into 4 parts according to the 4 objectives of this study mentioned earlier. Now let's look at the case studies. 3 case studies were identified and analyzed along with literature review of the financial implication or role of the key stakeholders. Thus, finding from analysis of 3 case studies on stakeholders along with review of literature, we enable formulation of relevant interview questions that will ensure achievement of objectives of this study. So the number 1 case study is titled Renewable Energy Integration in Africa. It's a case study of the adoption of new technology by the Electricity Transmission Company of Nigeria. The number 2 is titled Improving Nigerians' Renewable Energy Policy Design. It's a case study approach by Gunga, Emodi, and Dioha, 2019. The last is the tale of 2 countries, financing renewable energy in Nigeria and Brazil, and the 12th International Conference on Energy Efficiency and Access Imperatives for Sustainable Development in Emerging Economies. This is a USAEE working paper. Now let's look at the interview. The primary data for the study was gathered through an in-depth interview with 3 key stakeholders who are public officials. No, so we have 3 participants. Participant number 1, P1, is the supervisor for power and steel in the Ministry of Technology Development in Imo State, Nigeria. They are in charge of the energy and steel development in Imo State. Then the number 2 participant is the Councillor for Works, Housing and Environment at Uguta Local Government in Imo State. So they are in charge of power generation and distribution at the council level. And the 3rd participant, there is Special Assistant to the Commissioner of Budget and Economic Planning in Imo State, which are in charge of disbursing funds for projects in the state, including RE projects. Now, the interview questions were formulated based on the objective of the study and the review of literature review and the concept relevant to the RE policies. Then the location, the location is Imo State, Nigeria, and the location was based on, the choice of location was based on the availability and willingness of participants, interviewers, to participate in this study, and also the presence of oil field in the state, which makes the researcher to reach out to informants without restriction, thus necessitating the choice of location of study. Now, the criteria of selection of respondents emanates from the fact that they are public officials and the government is the sole regulator, financer, public initiator for RE in Nigeria, as well as agency responsible for generation and distribution of power and energy in the country. Now, let's move to the findings and the discussion. Here we have 4 findings and discussions. And number 1 is legislative procedure. Although the government has legislation to regulate RE policies and attract investors into the sector to reduce fossil fuel usage, development of sustainable energy, however, the enforcement was weak, leading to lack of investors' confidence to invest in this sector. Then the second point there is maintenance culture. Maintenance of power installations was very poor in the country, and this is attributed to vandalism of power installations and theft. Also, inability of investors and stakeholders to recoup money spent on power projects like power generation and distribution due to lack of payment of consumers, particularly public agencies, hamper the ability to sustain and maintain services. Then the next point, affordable energy. Although wind, sun, and lakes as natural sources of energy were abundant in Nigeria, however, harnessing them is capital intensive. Conversely, the technological knowledge, the technical know-how to do so was lacking. An ability to access credit facility among local investors is equally lacking. And that has driven up the cost of energy production due to lack of expertise. Then the last point there is stakeholders' participation. Government as the main stakeholder in the RE industry has provided framework for RE to include multiple stakeholders' participation in the sector. However, commercialization of the sector through public-private partnership in RE development, production, and distribution has put the rich against the poor. Findings of this study supports Gunga, Emodi, and Dioha's 2019 studies that in an effort to ensure development of clean energy, government incorporates RE into the energy mix of nations across the globe. Now let's look at the strategic communication plan. In the quest to attract investors into this power sector and improve the current RE policies in Nigeria, a strategic plan of action is needed. Now, this strategic plan of action involves communication stem from the fact that, 1, the current RE policy framework in the country lacks clarity in terms of regulation and the enforcement of existing policy. 2, lack of provisions encouraging or supporting local investors to participate in development and sustainable energy in the country. Lack of uniform billing of energy consumers and standardized procedures for investors coming into this sector. Now, we now propose an advocacy strategy. The advocacy strategy of this RE to the government were proposed in the form of strategic communication with 1, clear goals, defined targeted audience, detailed communication plan, action, and evaluation of the process. Based on existing literatures on RE, case study of RE in Nigeria, and interview data from informants, it is clear that existing policies on RE are impracticable and unable to meet the RE goal. Now, the following communication strategy is proposed as advocacy approach to stakeholder on RE in Nigeria. Now here we used the interactional communication model by West and Thorn 2007. Here you can see the sender, which serves as the government, the sender which serves as the major stakeholder, government by extension, its agencies, and also the target audience as the receiver. Then we have the channels, which are the website of the regulatory bodies or government agencies, and also the social media, Facebook, and they have an official message which they will use to encourage the investors, which are transition to the renewable energy is about investing in our future. Now let's also consider the action plan. The action plan involved in this advocacy strategy involves communication events such as forums, meetings, and feasibility studies. Here, these meetings is between investors and the energy consumers. The government, which is Power Holding PLC, regulatory agencies responsible for power generation and distribution in Nigeria. Then the purpose is to inform Power Holding PLC of challenges facing entities involved in RE projects, to leverage support for grant loans, and also to ensure that power is distributed equally among rural and the urban dwellers. Now, this is being done frequently before, during, and after the completion of the projects, the RE projects, at the agreed date. Then we also look at the feedback measures. The feedback measures here is based on the action plan, which is communication event, government as the main stakeholder and investors locally and internationally, and even energy consumers communicate with each other, negotiate and dialogue at forum, meetings, feasibility studies, or even PR projects sites to boost investors' confidence in the investment. Then since the main goal of this plan is to empower local investors to participate in this development of RE and power distribution in Nigeria, especially they need to establish official independent enforcement unit to ensure compliance with RE policies to increase stakeholders' participation in the RE development. Then the official message should be shared in the government regulatory agencies website in order to engage and discuss with potential investors and stakeholders to give them confidence they need to invest. Now, lastly, we look at the evaluation process. Number one is our evaluation plan. Number one is the number of local investors participating in developmental RE projects and financial incentives made available for all investors at all levels will show us whether the advocacy strategy is successful or not. Secondly, accessibility of credit facilities aimed at bridging the financial gap amongst investors will also indicate the success of this plan. Likewise, the ease of communication and prompt feedback on investors' inquiries and consumers' concerns will equally show the impact of this our plan. In conclusion, we believe that this advocacy strategy is designed as a policy report to inform stakeholders, decision makers, and players in this industry of RE on ways to ensure implementation of policies to the development of RE in Nigeria. Thank you.